WXII 12 News at 10 on the Triad CW starts now.
Mandatory evacuation as of 1 p.m.
Look at all the siding torn off of this house.
Mandatory evacuations tonight in Florida and South Carolina, and it's easy to see why. Hurricane Dorian is slamming the Bahamas as we speak as a Category 5. The track seems to want to skirt the coast of Florida, turning toward the Carolinas this work week. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Kenny Beck. Meteorologist Michelle Kennedy joins us now. Michelle, swimming bans and evacuations already in place for parts of South Carolina. A lot of people here curious what North Carolina can expect from Dorian in the days ahead.
You know, right now we are still in that zone of uncertainty as we continue to watch this path. We know that it's going to change some, but we do know that there's more likelihood now that we'll have an impact as a Cat 2, potentially somewhere near our coast, along our coast, or making landfall at some point in North Carolina. So we're going to be tracking this storm very carefully. You're seeing it right now continuing to impact folks over Grand Bahama. We have seen homes completely destroyed from Marsh Harbor and other islands in the Abacos as we're seeing this storm continue as a Cat 5. It is incredibly strong, 185-mile-an-hour winds. This ties the record for the Labor Day storm when it comes to landfalling strong winds at 185 miles an hour with gusts to 225. It's about 134 miles off the coast of West Palm Beach. And as it gets closer, it's going to stay a Cat 5 for a while. As we go into Monday afternoon, it may still be a Cat 5 to higher end Cat 4. And as it drops down along the coast, we've got storm surge, we've got winds. So even without a landfall, this is going to have some pretty devastating impacts here all the way up through the Orlando area. So now we're expecting to see that turn take place, a turn to the north and east, a Cat 3 potentially along Georgia's coast, then South Carolina, potentially Cat 2 as it makes its way into North Carolina from Thursday into Friday, and inland maybe a few thunderstorms if we even see that, at least on a track that takes it this far to our east. We're going to be monitoring it, of course, as a ridge of high pressure helps to steer it up to the north as it weakens, and that trough that is also diving in across the eastern United States should help, we hope, keep this more offshore than anything else. That's at least what we're expecting right now. We can expect, though, to see a few showers, some storms in the Triad on this current track, and possibly some gusty winds, but no major impacts into the foothills or the mountains. We're going to have much more for you and talk about what's happening in the Bahamas as well coming up.
Michelle, thank you very much. This is a view of Hurricane Dorian from the International Space Station as it crawls across the Bahamas as a Cat 5. State leaders in both Florida and South Carolina are urging people to get out while there's still time or potentially face life-threatening storm surge and devastating wind. Natasha Chen shows us how the changing forecast is adding a whole new challenge when it comes to preparation in Florida in particular.
The changing track of Hurricane Dorian is already giving Floridians preparation whiplash.
Think of the worst case scenario. This is a storm of storms. Don't know where it's going to hit, don't know what the impact's going to be, but it's not going to be good if it hits or gets close to land.
People across the state grabbed sandbags on Sunday. While many have left, Misty Jackson is among those who are staying in Brevard County.
I have macaws,
okay, and
tropical birds. I've got cats and dogs.
Snakes?
Macaws. No snakes.
Exotic animals, she says, are not welcome in hotels. In St. Lucie County, shelters were reduced, then added back. The sheriff and fire chief showed us they're ready for the worst with this retrofitted Army surplus vehicle.
A row of seats on each side. These fold down.
To be used for high water rescues. Mandatory evacuations are happening in low-lying areas along the coast in Florida, and South Carolina will begin their mandatory evacuations Monday at noon.
This is a serious storm, y'all, and let's get ready for it. Be prepared.
Officials are not taking any chances, even as they hope to see if it might turn northward.
I ask everyone in Hurricane Dorian's path to heed all warnings and evacuation orders from local authorities. If the slower it moves, the bigger it is and the bigger it gets.
In Fort Pierce, Florida, I'm Natasha Chen.
Well, hundreds of miles and several days away, and without yet making landfall, Dorian is already impacting North Carolina, in particular with 2 congressional elections. The State Board of Elections is urging people in our 3rd and 9th districts to vote as soon as they possibly can in case the storm impacts polling locations. Early voting picks back up again Tuesday after Labor Day tomorrow and runs all the way through Friday. The election itself, Election Day, is a week from Tuesday. You can track Hurricane Dorian even when we're not on television by downloading the free WXII 12 News mobile app, or you can also visit the weather section of our website, WXII12.com. New tonight, the Odessa community comes together in prayer after a second mass shooting in just 1 month in the state of Texas. In the most recent one, 7 killed, more than 20 injured after a man police say went on a shooting rampage down a busy highway before he himself was shot and killed by police. The youngest of those victims to survive, a 17-month-old girl. She's doing surgery tomorrow to remove shrapnel from her little body. Now the FBI is searching a property believed to be connected to the shooter. They're investigating if a recent job loss may have been the motive for this massacre. Miguel Almaguer is down in Odessa, Texas now to get us up to speed.
Oh God, they're shooting right there.
As gunfire erupted, this was the scramble to stay alive.
Get out, get out, get out.
Through the chaos and carnage, authorities hunting down a killer in West Texas.
Their back windshield shot out.
A gunman on a shooting spree, mowing down 29 victims seemingly at random, cutting a deadly path of terror through 2 cities and 10 miles of interstate. During the rampage, 7 killed, 22 wounded, 3 law enforcement. Among the survivors, a 17-month-old baby shot in the face.
Adam, that's okay.
Hayden Carnegie called her dad as she huddled on the ground.
Hayden's telling me, Daddy, I can see the gunman. I don't know if he's pointing this way or not. And on FaceTime, you're thinking, that's the last time I'm going to see my daughter. That's going to happen right in front of me.
It all started with a routine traffic stop outside Midland. The gunman, identified as Sept, immediately opening fire with an assault-style rifle as an officer approached his vehicle. After hijacking a mail truck, he began shooting at civilians all over Odessa.
Oh, get down. He hits the barrier.
Initially fearing multiple gunmen, law enforcement tracked the suspect to this movie theater and opened fire.
What's going on?
Shoot him. It's okay.
The 36-year-old killed during the gun battle. Authorities offering no motive, but saying they believe the theater may have been a possible target.
Why go to the theater if you're not planning on entering the theater?
The bloodshed comes just 4 weeks after the massacre at a Walmart in El Paso. With 22 killed there, tonight Texas is reeling again.
Miguel Almaguer reporting several of those 24 or so victims remains in serious condition. Today, new laws easing gun restrictions went into effect in the state of Texas. The governor says the laws were created to keep that community safe. As of today, guns are allowed in Texas houses of worship unless they post signs stating otherwise. Firearms can also be stored in vehicles on school property, loosening rules for storing guns in foster homes. Blocks landlords from prohibiting tenants from keeping guns and ammo on the property that they are renting. Some say loosening these gun laws is a move in the wrong direction when it comes to safety. Others disagree. New tonight, police in Greensboro say they're looking for 2 people after one was shot in the leg. This happened around 8:30 this evening at the Great Stops convenience store on Westgate City Boulevard. That's not far from the campus of UNC Greensboro. Campus police asked people to avoid the area, but they do say the campus is all clear tonight. Greensboro police tell us 2 men are wanted in this shooting. They say one of them drove off in a white sedan, the other left on foot. More from Greensboro tonight. Police right now are looking into an overnight shooting. This happened at about 3 a.m. on Andover Avenue, not far from Meadow Street. Officers say they found a victim sitting in his car with a gunshot wound. EMS ended up taking him to the hospital. It's unclear right now how he's doing, and police have not released any suspect information. They do say they'd like to speak with someone who knows anything about this incident. Comedian and actor Kevin Hart is seriously injured in an overnight car crash out in Los Angeles. Hart and 2 of his friends were driving down an extraordinarily windy section of Mulholland Drive just around midnight when they veered off the road, went over an embankment, and rolled down a hill. This photo from TMZ shows what kind of shape the car was in after the fact. TMZ says the car was a gift that Hart gave to himself for his 40th birthday just a few months ago. California Highway Patrol reports Hart and his friend were driving the car, and they both have major back issues now. It's unclear how the third person who was in that car is doing tonight. Back home, nearly 50 years after being killed in the line of duty, the Alamance County Sheriff's Office continues to honor one of its own. Deputy Jerry Gideon Davis and another deputy were trying to serve mental institution commitment papers on this day back in 1970. The person who was supposed to receive the papers ended up grabbing one of the deputy's weapons and shot him to death. The current sheriff, Terry Johnson, says it's critical to remember those who served before him, particularly those who paid the ultimate price.
They've made this community and helped make this community what it is today. And they sacrificed, gave the ultimate sacrifice, their life to help our community.
The 32-year-old suspect who was charged with murder was later found incompetent to stand trial and instead committed to a mental institution for life. To our D.C. newsroom now. A new 15% tariff on Chinese goods, including clothing, diapers, and contact lenses, is now in effect. The president says this is the next phase of the U.S.-China trade war, but dozens of business associations says the impact of these new tariffs will soon be felt by customers and by workers. The president says someone else will be footing the bill.
He's opposed every increase in the minimum wage. He's changed the regulation to take overtime away from a couple of million people. He's proposed $1 trillion cuts to Medicare and Medicaid.
China has devalued their currency so much that, in fact, they are actually paying for all of the tariffs.
The president is delaying a second round of tariffs on things like electronics until December. Leaders in China say they're hopeful that the U.S. and China can make a deal as soon as possible. How about some good news? Dogs and cats are officially allowed back inside breweries as long as those breweries are not also preparing food. Back in February, a number of businesses, including Joymongers Brewing Company in Greensboro, had to start turning pets away because of potential health department violations. A law to change that went into effect today. The governor signed it at the end of July. Since Joymongers worked with local lawmakers to get dogs back inside their breweries, the brewing company hosted a Welcome Back Potty, P-A-W-T-Y, with free dog treats today. Still ahead tonight here at 10 on the Triad CW, how soon roads are going to be closing in downtown Greensboro ahead of the North Carolina Folk Festival this weekend. That is, if the weather holds out. Roads are going to be closed regardless. We'll see what kind of weather we have for that. We'll see what kind of weather the poor folks on the coast of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas have as well. Plus, meteorologist Michelle Kennedy has your work week forecast when we return here tonight on the Triad CW.